So today I'm going to be talking about the importance of having an age limit for government in America, because we all know that there is already an age minimum, but why is there not an age limit? And here's a fact that I think is quite interesting, and it's that more than half of the U.S. population thinks that there should be an age limit for politicians. And that's according to an author named Stenning, where he wrote an article, Should There Be a Maximum Age Limit for Elected Politicians? And I think this is important for all of the U.S. to understand the importance of having an age limit. And I've been doing some research in the past couple weeks and understand quite a bit about the topic. And I think that we already see these politicians going into their 80s, into their 90s. Some are still in their 70s, which is quite reasonable. But once you go past your 80s, past your 90s, that's where I think problems can occur. One being their health, two being they become out of touch with society, and then three, they're in the Constitution. They never put an age limit, but there's a reason for that, and I'm going to discuss that in the next few minutes. So, the first point, like I said, in the Constitution, there was never an age limit, and there's a reason for that, and that's because back then, people did not live to their 70s, their 80s, into their 90s. In the 1700s, the maximum or the average age was around 41. That was like how the age that most people died in, okay, somewhere around there. But the median age in Senate and in Congress, it's 64.8 in the Senate and then 58.9 in the House. And that's according to Starwell, where she wrote an article titled, It's Time for an Age Limit for Federal Office. And this is much higher than the expected age in the 1700s when they wrote the Constitution. This is already almost double that. And another reason that I think it's important that we have an age limit in Congress, it's because that people become out of touch with society. These people are already old, they're in their 70s, they're in their 80s, and many of them just don't understand the younger generation. They don't understand the struggles, they don't understand what we're going through, and quite frankly, many of them are selfish in their own ways. They think about their lifetime, and then they don't think about the future. And I think that's something that we need to get rid of. I think we need to put in younger generations and people that care more about the future, but also care about the present. And this is causing frustration among like the younger generation. People are getting frustrated at the older generation for their carelessness for the future. And also Starwell, he said that the 85-year-old sees the world differently than the people in the middle of their life. And that's true because they care about present time and not as much for the future. And another reason I think it's important that we set an age limit is not only for the benefit of us, of the American citizens, but it's also for the benefit of the politicians themselves. Because many of them, they're past their age of retirement. And there's a reason that there's an age of retirement. That's because most people become ill in the next coming years. And that's one of the reasons that we should have an age limit, is so that these people, they're not ill serving this country. There are plenty of politicians that we can see that do not look healthy. They do not look like they should be serving. They're past their healthy years. And a clear example of this is if we look at Joe Biden. I mean, he's already 79. That's nearly double the average life in the 1700s. And we can see that he is not clearly not in his right mind. I mean, he stutters, he can't speak clearly, he's just deteriorating. He's basically just deteriorating. And this is very important, and we must solve this issue, and that's because their age can literally affect their thinking. There's an article that I read called Changes in Cognitive Function in Human Aging, and it's by Gliski. And she wrote, cognitive function decreases with age, and this is without any illnesses. So without any illnesses, people still deteriorate. And you don't need to have Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever just to have cognitive dysfunction or deterioration. But you can just, by aging, you become cognitive and you lose your cognitive function. And like I said, Biden's a clear example of these deteriorations. I mean, we don't have any proof of dementia or Alzheimer's. We'll never know, honestly, but it's clear that he is deteriorating and that he should be in office. And the another reason is that this affects the American people. So it affects politicians, but then it also affects us. Because like I said, these politicians, they don't care so much for the present or the future, but they care much more about the present. I mean, we can see it through like all the issues that we're going through in America. Just look at the Afghanistan exit. There was a lot of problems with that. That was a plan that was clearly not thought out clearly, and that we don't know exactly what the reason was for the failure in the exit, but there's a potential that it was because of the age of the politicians. Cognitive function, it decreases, and with that decreases thinking and reasonable decision making. So that could be a reason for a lot of the problems in America right now. And then the solution to this problem, like I said, is to set an age limit. There's already an age minimum, so I believe that in half of the United States population believes that there should be an age limit. Politicians should not serve past their healthy years. And then the reason or the way that we can pass this is by a 2/3 vote by the House and Senate, or it can be taken up in a national convention and be passed by a 2/3 vote from state legislature. And that's not something that can be done easily, since it's going to be voted by politicians, which many of them are in their old ages. And then the plan of action. So what can we do? How can we figure this out? How can we set this age limit? And that's by raising up our voices. We have citizens. We have a right to raise up our voices. We have freedom of speech, and we can voice our opinions to Congress. We can go and protest, whatever it may be, through social media. There's many different ways to get this into Congress, and then once it gets into Congress, we continue to raise up our voices. We continue to raise up our opinions, so that this can be passed and that it won't be just pushed aside. And then if it passes, what would be the result? So if the bill passes, we will have younger generation in Senate, in Congress, in political seats, and these younger generations, they will understand more about the American citizens, about the working class, about just the younger generation in general. And if we do not pass this, just as an example, if we do not pass this, then it will continue to be the older generation ruling the political seats, not wanting to leave, just serving 20, 30 years, whatever it may be. And leading into my conclusion, I think this is a great saying, I guess. And it's that the longer the politicians serve, the more it becomes not for the people, but for themselves. They care more about themselves. They become more selfish because they do not care about the future. They do not care about the younger generation. All they care about is their lifetime, which is only a few years, and that's all they care about. So what can we do? Like I said, limit the age for the politicians so that they do not serve past a certain age. And as stated this is not something new. This is something that 50%, more than 50% of the population thinks that we should have a age limit for these politicians. So I'm asking everybody just to raise your voice to this matter, that there should be an age limit, and spread it on social media, whatever it may be. And this is a problem that must be solved in America. This is becoming a known problem among everybody. A lot of people understand the severity of this, and that these politicians are starting past their age, and it affects America in general. It doesn't affect them as much, but affects us as American citizens more than affects them. So I'm just asking everybody, voice up your opinion, raise your voices, and good luck.